Hello and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this week's special episode of Breaking News Special. Obviously, we were not planning on doing a podcast today. As you know, it's Valentine's Day, and hopefully, you'll be spending time with your significant other, enjoying each other's company, maybe having a nice meal, maybe exchanging a gift or three. So obviously there will not be a new episode of Primetime Gaming this evening. And I actually was going to take the day off to play games, folks. I had all ready to go. I was gonna work out, I was gonna play some games, chill until I have to go get Mrs. Boom, and then we were gonna enjoy the evening. And all of this Sony news broke out of nowhere. And who am I to not podcast when the peoples are asking for it? So here we are. It's going to be about maybe an hour and 10 minutes, maybe a pinch more, maybe a pinch less, but we have so much to go through. We have quotes from VGC. We have quotes from the current acting president of PlayStation, which is Hiroki Totoki. He's been in power since Jim Ryan's, dismissal, if you will, for about 4 months. He had a pretty stern message for PlayStation and their studios on how they do business. Again, we have something from Jeff Grubb. We have something from multiple sources. I know someone in the chat was asking, is this confirmed? Yeah, folks, it is confirmed. I'm going to be reading verbatim from these news stories that are posted. And there's no one better than VGC. But before we get into that, let's welcome in Fuzzy Belvedere, who's taking the time out of his day. He's already on 2 shows a week, which is crazy. And that's just mine. He's on 17 other shows. I don't know how the hell he's here today. But Fuzzy Belvedere, thanks so much. What I think this ultimately tells gamers is that the landscape of what is considered exclusive and platform centric is changing. Obviously, tomorrow is the big business meeting update with the 3 bigs from Xbox to find out what that is going to look like moving forward. But this is relatively big news, and I got to be honest with you, folks. PlayStation isn't dead. PlayStation has Final Fantasy VII Rebirth coming out. That's going to be big for them. That's an exclusive. It's only on their platform. I bought it. I can't wait to play it. Helldivers is doing very well for them. I think it really does change the mindset of day and date, not only on PlayStation, but on PC based on how well that game is doing. There was some conversation about, and again, this comes the way of Hiroki Totoki, about how there is going to be multi-platform releases. So I did get a little pushback from people saying there's no way it's coming to Xbox. Okay, if that's what rocks you to sleep at night, good on you. But I think some things are changing, and I think that it's changing across the industry. But Fuzzy, how you feeling, brother? Welcome.
Well, glad to be here, man. It's been an awesome day, and before some news tomorrow, we got some decent news today, and
Indeed,
we'll definitely get into it. But man, oh man, I know a lot of people were kind of like cheering on some of the highs of the PlayStation, information, but there's some low points there that they might want to keep their eye on, and some of those things that they've said will never happen might be right around the corner. So we'll get into it.
Yeah, indeed. Okay, so let's open up with Hiroki Totoki. He is the current acting head of PlayStation. He is also, of course, the head of Sony proper, Sony Interactive Entertainment. He had taken on the role of head of PlayStation that was expected to run until about April of this year, until they were able to find someone to replace Jim Ryan. And the first report that we have here, and again, this is quoted. This comes the way of Genki underscore JPN. He is, I don't know if you consider him an insider. I don't know if you consider him to be a news source per se, but I did go back and check exactly what he wrote here. But because I used his particular post, I want to give the guy credit because that's the way we do things here on Double Barrel Gaming. So this is what he has to say in his tweet, and we're going to go through it, folks. We have quite a few news reports to get to, as well as some really, really disturbing news for any PlayStation gamer who looks forward to their strong single player story driven content, the AAA bangers, as the kids like to say. Well, guess what, folks? We, and I say we because I got a PlayStation, are not getting anything significant until at least the end of March 2025. Think about that for a second, folks. We're still in February. That is 13 months away. You're telling me, and this is confirmed, folks, and again, we will read verbatim from the report, that they do not have a first party quote unquote banger for 13 months? Interesting. We're going to get into that. But here is what President or Sony President Hiroki Totoki says he wants to do. They want to go aggressive in improving margins by growing first party with multi platform PlayStation releases. He says this, folks. In the past, we wanted to popularize console and first party titles. Main purpose was to make the console popular. It is true, but there is a synergy to it. So if you have strong first party content, not only with our console, but with other platforms like computers, first party can be grown with multi-platform and can help operating profits to improve. So that is another one we want to proactively work on. I mean, look, he says he continues with, I personally think there are opportunities out there for improvement of margins. So I'd like to go aggressive in improving our margin performance. Now, look, folks, do I see a day, and I'm being completely frank and earnest here. I don't know if I ever see a day personally that a God of War or Uncharted find its way to PlayStation. I mean, to Xbox. The same way I'm having a hard time, and maybe it's because I'm a dinosaur. Remember, I've been gaming since '78. I was taught by these companies that Platform A has games 1, 2, and 3. Platform B has games 4, 5, and 6. That's what you buy when you want to play those games. That's how I was taught as a consumer, as a fanboy. That's just the way it was. Now things are different now. Things are changing. They're rapidly changing. I've adapted to change with digital. I've adapted to the change that games are 76.43 for an American game, because I used to spend that on imports back in the days. So I had to grow as a consumer / gamer. One of the things I don't know if I can cross this hurdle is the whole Halo on PlayStation, God of War on Xbox. It's like it's cringeworthy to me, and maybe that's me just being a straight up fanboy, potentially. But things change. You have to adapt if you want to continue to play in this universe, and well, we'll see what happens. But look, there's a lot to unpack just with this one statement. We have more, but I'm going to write to Fuzzy on this. Fuzzy, what are your thoughts, or what are your initial impressions from Sony President Hiroki Totoki regarding this?
Well, I think the big thing as far as margins, games as a service.
Hey, Hargeet.
Hey, Hargeet. Games as a service are still going to be this area that they look to hopefully make some noise in, and Helldivers is definitely helping with that. They want their studios to probably start scaling things back as far as what they spend. They don't need to necessarily make a game that costs 300 mil to struggle to kind of make all of that money back, plus whatever licensing fees and things along those lines. So if they could do things on maybe a smaller scale, like your Alan Wake 2s or something like Hellblade 2, where it is a smaller staff, it is a smaller expenditure, but you still have all the quality, all the story-driven narrative stuff that people love, without having to break the bank to make it, kind of thing. So I think that's one of the key things that he's going to look at. And the other thing is, Helldivers is showing that PC day and date, especially for games as a service, is a given now for PlayStation at this point. And if there's continued success when Fair Game eventually comes out, whenever, and Concord come out, then you might even see some of their first, or single player games start to come to PC day and date, because even with the performance that they've had on Steam, like for things like God of War Miles Morales and stuff like that, with it having like couple of year delay in comparison and coming to Steam, they didn't see quite the same, push or drive for those titles. As big of a title as it is, with that delay. Yeah, sure, they got their initial sales out of it, which probably was under what they were hoping for, but a day and date with not as many people on PC overlapping with console. It's I won't say it's two totally different markets, but you shouldn't have cannibalism between the two. If somebody is a PC gamer, they're going to pick it up on PC. If they're a console player, they're going to pick it up on the PS5. And some people might double dip, others might buy it on one first and then buy it eventually on the other later, kind of thing. But you're still going to get a larger audience that's in the time frame when they're advertising and marketing this, and the game is being talked about on social media, and the word of mouth is strong at that point. 2 years or a year down the road, a game kind of loses that luster and stuff. But I think he's trying to see ways to get those dollars sooner rather than later, and more of them without having to spend as many dollars. But I'll leave room for Hargeet to do his intro and give his thoughts as well.
Well, listen, brother, great points all around. Really good points, and I think that this is what we are starting to realize and see happen to us is, I think Sony specifically is a victim of their own success. Their games, when you are looking at a PlayStation game. Now that may piss off a lot of Xbox players, but that's why I have a PlayStation. I like their games to be these cinematic movies, these story-driven, over the shoulder, third person, adult themed kind of content. I that's what I dig. That's why I have a PlayStation. That's why I support all the brands. Now, I'm not saying Xbox doesn't have it. They do have it. They have plenty of it. And they have that coming in spades. But when you consider Spider-Man 2, which is an excellent game. I haven't finished it, shamefully enough. Too many games, not enough time. But I'm 3/4 the way through. Cannot wait to finish it. And it's what I expect in the Spider-Man game. Insomniac at their absolute finest. With all of that said, Hargeet, $315 million to make that game, just to make the game, not counting what is happening on the back end of shipping and packaging, and then of course, all the other stuff that comes with it, the marketing, which is supposed to be as much as the game as being made, it's budgets that no one can keep up with anymore. And if you're selling 20 million out the gate, then you're good. But they didn't even, I don't even know if they've even hit 6 million at this point, because they haven't said. And that's a real problem. Usually when Sony hits these numbers, they're out there with the flag. PlayStation #1, right? They haven't said anything. I wonder why. But Hargeet, I want to read you something from Jeff Grubb. Now, I'm a big fan of Jeff. He's been on this show many times before. Haven't had him on in a while. Jeff, if you're listening, brother, DM me, brother. We got to get you on here forthwith. Responding to a GameSpot article, which, again, you folks wanted the evidence. Well, I'm going to present it to you in spades. The GameSpot article says this. This is what we were talking about earlier. No major Sony franchise game releases are coming until at least April of 2025. Think about that for a second. That is 14 freaking months away, and there are no AAA bangers coming the way of PlayStation 5. That's a problem. But again, Hargeet, we will get to that. We're actually opening up with the Hiroki Totoki thing about what he had to say. But I do want to read some of the quotes that kind of overlapping involve what Grubb had to say. Grubb says this: throughout all the recent Xbox rumors, I kept pointing out things that weren't going to be clear sailing, that things weren't going to be clear sailing for PlayStation either. We've reached a part where AAA game development is unsustainable and unavoidable. He goes on to say, Hargeet, I think the bulk of people making games have already moved on from the AAA mindset. Is Helldivers actually AAA at $40? The answer is that doesn't matter. And that's true for many of the 14,000 games that come to Steam each and every year. This really does go in line with what Hiroki Totoki had to say, and this is coming off of some really auspicious numbers, Hargeet. According to PostUp, who posted this earlier today, we have this report of what Sony's been up to and how their money's are panning out for them. So, according to this report, PlayStation 5 hardware unit sales gradual decline. Folks, if you wanted to know, they missed their mark that they promised investors by 4 million units. Software sales decrease with no plan for release of major franchise titles. That's a problem. Burden of acquisition-related costs is easing. First-party software profit, slight decrease. Third-party software sales, gradual expansion, which that's good. Network service revenue, which people are subscribing to PSN, is gradual expansion. But I don't know, man. I said this earlier. I think that no one wants to admit, Hargeet, that Sony, of course, isn't going anywhere. Are they in big trouble? I don't know, big trouble. I say they're in a pickle. When you figure that Xbox. So look at what Sony's up against. Let me paint this picture for you, Hargeet. This is what Sony is up against in 2024. They had a lackluster 2023 with first party. That's a fact, folks. Sorry if it pisses you off. They had one game. Now, the game was good, and it's one of my favorite games of the year for sure. It's in my top 10, but one game. Well, Microsoft had a shit ton of games, including Starfield. Now, I guess that's, your mileage may vary, but it's my game of the year. They're coming into 2024 where I don't know what's happening. Let me see. Oh, I don't know. So Nintendo's releasing a new console with a shit ton of new games. And Microsoft's first party is hitting on all cylinders. They don't have a game. They do not have a major first party game coming out in 2024. Folks, ask for better. What are your thoughts on all of this information, Hargeet?
Okay, so I don't know what the original Hiroki Totoki quote was that Fuzzy was talking through. But
I can read it to you real quick.
Yeah,
basically, what he says, Sony, according to Genki on Twitter, it's Genki_JPN. He says Sony President Hiroki Totoki says that he wants to go aggressive in improving margins by growing first party with multi-platform releases of PlayStation titles. That's where we started.
Okay. And multi-platform, let's just assume means PC.
Right.
Be interesting to see if it goes to Nintendo and maybe even Xbox, but PlayStation Portable, the portal that they have, maybe that's a good market, but you can't look over at the Switch, which is probably going to end up eclipsing the PS2 and say that's a bad platform to put your games on. Right. If the Switch 2 comes close to that, it's something to think about, right, from their perspective. Now, this was the shift that was going to come, right? There was, if you want profitability, and that was where they're starting to go down. They're dipping, right? Which is something I'd been kind of saying, like, their profit keeps quarter to quarter, it keeps kind of going down. Like you gotta be concerned about that. Hence, Jim Ryan's gone, right? This is kind of the problem, right? It's great to make more revenue. But bottom line is, what are you adding to the coffers? And if you're not adding to the coffers at the same level and it's going down, that's not good, right? You're still investing. This is the problem that Xbox is running into, right? They just spent $70 billion. They're like, well, where's my bottom line? I expect profits to go up. And they're like, but it's a platform. You can't it doesn't matter. They want the profits to go up, right? And this is kind of the problem that Sony's running into. Now, in the case of Microsoft, they could easily sustain Xbox not making massive profits every quarter and then sustaining where they are because it's Microsoft. They made like, what, $22 billion in profit the last 3 months. Like they don't care, right? But their investors do. So they'll keep pushing for things. Sony's case, PlayStation's a big deal for them. And if that doesn't bring in the money, that starts to become a headache. Hence the leadership changes. So this is interesting times. The mention of having multi-platform, we keep saying that day and date's coming, folks. Day and date PC's coming. It's coming. You can see the success of Helldivers as the key. Like, look, Spider-Man, if it had released on PC at the same time, they probably would have hit profit. They didn't. We do know the numbers because they got leaked with the Insomniac leak. 6.94 as of the last quarter. They sold 6.94 million. That does not make them even. It doesn't break even. And if
I think they needed to break even was what was it, 8.1 million copies sold, if I'm not mistaken,
at full price. And again, it's such a weird like royalty thingy that it's hard to tell depending on where the game was sold, physical, digital, or bundle. The royalty distribution it makes it tougher to figure out. But yeah, you need to get to a certain level, and then the marketing, as you mentioned, is I don't know how much they spent. Hopefully not 300 million. That would be insanity. But let's say they spent like 80 million, 100 million. You got to make that back.
Margits. If you remember the leaks, one of the things that was put out there on into the ether was that according to the leaks, I'm not making this shit up. Go back and look for it. I'm not gonna make it easy. I did all the work. You want the information, go do the work. But it has been out there for quite some time that Sony spends as equal to what they spend to make a game in general to market said game. So if they spent $315 million,
Jesus, I hope they didn't spend that much on marketing that game. That would be insane.
But it was everywhere, dude. It was on buses, on sides of buildings. It was on the wasn't it on the Sphere as well? Wasn't Venom on the Sphere?
Yeah.
I mean,
but yeah, $315 million. Like, geez, let's say they spent 150. That's either way, it's a lot of money that they have to make back. That's a lot of unit sales to make that back. As far as the unsustainability, again, this is something that I've also pointed out. Yep. Sony did this to themselves. They needed to do something different, just like Xbox did, by the way. They came up with Game Pass and backwards compatibility and all that cool stuff that they did because they had to differentiate, right? So PlayStation did that in the PS3 era, and they came up with these cinematic games, right? And cool, but that as you keep doing that, people keep expecting more, and the more costs much more money, and that was unsustainable as of the PS3, PS4 gen when Sean Layden said, "I don't know how we're going to keep doing this," right? And he got canned because he didn't want to go with the tagline that we should just keep making more cinematic experiences. There is a problem with that, and now they're finally realizing it. Hence, they're switching to games as a service. Now, I hope Helldivers 2 does great for them. I really do. I hope it does something.
It's fun, dude. I'm okay. So I couldn't get on Sunday, which is a little annoying. I'm not going to front, but they were having server issues. Fine. I'm not even going to pretend that I'm not having a blast. I am level 6. I absolutely love it. I bought the $60 edition. I dropped $10 down on a new armor. They got me for 76 and change. Not even. I'm not even sorry I did it. And it is a lot of freaking fun. Mind you, I'm playing with randos. When I can get in with the Fuzzy Belvederes and the Mavs and everybody, I'm in it.
Yep. So yeah, and if it sustains, right, the headache with any of these games is if you need to have content, you need to have changes, you need to have challenges, right? Something that keep people engaged so that they keep doing that $10 expansion that you paid for, right? So assuming that happens, that's great. That's what you want to have. You want to have more engagement, more just constant revenue. And I hope that works out for them. And I hope they get that with some of the other games that they're putting out, right? We'll see how that goes, right? Good luck to them, and that's a good shift if it works. The day and date thing, like, good. If Spider-Man 2 had come out, I assume they would have eclipsed about 10 million, and they would have been profitable off the bat, right? Now they're gonna have to wait, and I don't know what the time frame difference is, but the buzz starts to go down. There's also just other games come out, right? You've got a slew of new games that just came out, and it doesn't really slow down. It just keeps accelerating. If you put it out like 3, 4, 5 months from now, there's gonna be that many more other games that are available, right? You just have to take that into consideration. If they don't have the marketing that they do for the console, for the PC release, which they're not going to do, you just don't get the same buzz, right? And it's a disappointing thing for them to figure out, but at least they figured it out, right? So And that's a cool switch if they're going to do that, and they should. Hopefully that makes it so that they are more profitable. But ultimately, it is unsustainable. You can't spend $315 million to make a game, right? If that game does not make its money back, well, that's a huge hit to you, right? And you can't keep sustaining that. If you want evidence of this, just look at Square Enix. How many L's have they taken? And how many can they
Lots of
sustain?
L's.
Right? Like, I hope Final Fantasy VII Rebirth sells enough, because again, they're stupidly putting it only on PS5. They could have easily done it on PS5 and PC, at least PC.
Yeah.
And maybe at least get 30-40% bump on PC, something at least, right? They're going to be locked to whatever 50 million, 55 million consoles. Okay, let's hope that's something, but you're not going to have a 15-20% attach rate. It's not realistic. Even Spider-Man didn't do that. I gave it the deference and said, I think you'll hit about 6 to 7 million. And they hit 7 million, 6.94 million, right?
Yeah.
And that's a huge, that's well above the 10%, right? So like it is unsustainable to think that you're going to hit much more than that for a third-party game on that system. It's not going to happen, right? Just like FF16 didn't do that. You just got to deal with realities. You're not going to sell to way more than the console base is going to accept. They should have put that on PC. So this is probably going to be another disappointing sales number for Square Enix. Not terrible. Hopefully they make some money back, but it's going to be a disappointing number for them. If they just put it on PC, multiplat is the way to go with these things, because you're spending too much money to make them. You have to put it everywhere. And like, if you're not going to put it on Xbox, fine. If you at least put it on PC. I would also recommend put it on Switch 2, whatever, make it in the launch window, put it on Switch 2, right? So that you get something back from the Nintendo fans. And Final Fantasy started on Nintendo, right? So might as well take advantage of that nostalgia. Bring these games over, make some cash. So look, it's good that they're recognizing this, but again, this is Sony, making the bed that they made and now having to lie in it, because they're the ones who pushed this, and the industry tried to follow it and try to make more cinematic games, which ultimately is only making the games take longer to come out and cost way more than they need to. I keep harkening back to 360 gen, where I would get games every couple of years. You could get entire trilogies within the generation. That's unheard of now. You just can't do it. It takes 5 to 6 years to make a AAA game. You want 3 of those? Yeah, you're looking at 20 years. That's ridiculous. It's ridiculous, but that's where we are, right? And I don't know why people would want that just because it looks a little fancier. I still love Mass Effect. I don't need it to look that much better. It looked great to me. It played awesome. Could it be more modernized? Sure. But you know what? It was a fantastic trilogy that I got to play within one generation. And I don't think I'm ever going to get to do that again. And that's sad. So if people are recognizing this, that, hey, you know what? The AA model actually works better, and maybe you can release your game in 3 years instead of 6.
Yep.
Hallelujah. About time you recognize that you don't need to spend $100 million to give me a game. You could spend $30 million. You could spend $7 million like Pal World and take up 100 hours of somebody's time. Doesn't matter, right? How much did Grounded cost? I spent 200 hours in that game.
That's crazy.
Right?
Yeah.
So like, look, it's about the gameplay loop. It's about the enjoyment somebody gets out of it. It's about the content you put into it. It does not need to have like every freaking animation has to be perfect. Oh, look, he got into the boat and the animations the same. I don't care. I don't care. Somebody had to point that crap out. Who cares? Seriously? This is the pettiness we've gotten to. And it's like, I just play the game.
I can actually see as someone standing with a magnifying glass, like, I see only one blade of grass fired, failed. It's garbage. Get it out of here.
What the hell? And this is Sony doing it to themselves. And it really is. It's sad. I don't mind that games aren't perfect. I don't mind that, like, they should be as bug-free as possible. And I don't care about the graphics being like absolutely stellar. Like, everybody wants something to look perfect and like it's real life. And like, I just want a game. I don't want it to look real life. I already got that. I can open a window. I don't need real life. I just want to play a game.
You can go touch grass? Are you
Exactly.
kidding? What kind of concept are you talking about, sir? I don't understand it.
As far as the profits, though, this has been a problem that like I keep elucidating, but like a lot of PlayStation fanboys just seem to say like I'm just being an asshole. Like, no, I'm pointing out realities,
Yes.
and now it's their leadership telling you profits can't keep dipping. You can do certain investments over time. Fine, you can take a hit here or there, but you can't just continuously drive your profits downwards. The company will notice and say, "Yo, what's going on?" Right? And the profits have to come back up. This is a problem Sony has had. Whereas Nintendo sits there and says, "We're just printing money. We're just printing money. We're just printing money." And like the other companies are sitting there, why aren't we just printing money? Well, why are they doing that? Like, they look at their games. They don't look that stellar. What the hell's going on here? Why are they just printing money? Yeah, because they just make games that are fun. That's it. That's all that matters. People like just buy them in droves. Super Mario Wonder sold 10 plus million.
They're such an anomaly when it comes to the market. They really are. Like, you've heard me talk about this. Haruki and I have had this conversation before. Look, the truth of the matter is there's something special about Nintendo, and there's something special about their releases, and they have a knack for their attach rate is on a level that is unheard of in the market. Now, it's not 70% of the market. It was when Breath of the Wild was out. It was almost 100%.
It was more than 100%.
Ridiculous. But if you verse the numbers versus PlayStation versus Xbox, their attach rate is just
insanity.
It's crazy.
Right. But so it's something they're tackling, thank God. Right. And so this is going to be, that's why they got the finance guy to take over. Right. Is like, yo, you're not making enough money. What's going on? Right. That I also want to point out, the finance guy is also the guy at Xbox who's pushing for changes that we don't seem to be liking. I'll just say that. Right. So this could be good and bad. PlayStation fans, be prepared for changes that you don't like.
Yeah.
Because they're coming. Yep. Ultimately numbers guys are numbers guys, and they just look at how do I drive more profit, and they're not going to be about the enthusiasm and the platform, and whatever. Right. So certainly not about console wars. They don't care about that. They care about getting more money. So there are probably going to be changes, disappointingly for your fans, that will not be things you want to hear. But they're probably necessary for sustainment. And we'll see where they go. Look, the world is turning mobile. It's definitely turning PC. We have to kind of deal with that, right? As far as console fans, that's just the way it is, right? Kids generally trend towards that. And if you're not on PC and mobile, you're really not, talking to the next generation.
Also, if you're not free to play,
that's another thing. That's very common.
Yeah.
So yes, it's good they recognize it, and this is what they're going to look for in the next CEO. Is a pragmatism about the market. You have to understand that, right? Yes, there's some enthusiasm you gain by having a platform, much like we're all in the dumps about what the heck we're supposedly going to get tomorrow. You have to deal with these things as realities. Hopefully, Phil and team are going to do it better so than what we see from the other side, but we will see, right? We will see how this goes. If multi-plat means more than PC, that's yet to be seen as far as Sony. If that happens, good for them, to be honest, right? Again, their games are the ones that really need the money. It's just the way it is. They spend way too much on those games. They really should just get a return on investment. Even if like their games come to Nintendo and Xbox like 5 years later, 4 years later, why not? Like at some point you just have to look at the fact that you just want to get more cash for what? Like you're going to spend like 100K, 200K, whatever it is to port the game. Just do it and then get the money. And like, hopefully it's not in the 20 million range, but if it's, it's under a million, port it over, you're going to get your money back. You might as well just, get your cash. But so we'll see what they do with this. It's messaging that's very similar to what we hear on the other side, right?
Yep.
Multi-platform is kind of the way it is, and you're gonna have to kind of deal with it, which ultimately might not be bad as long as everybody does it. Nintendo won't.
Yeah, but the thing, Nintendo doesn't have to. Like they literally are living in their own bubble. That's the truth. They don't necessarily. They don't need to do
Nintendo.
it. Yeah.
And now you're just looking at the numbers,
but they won't give.
For the Switch, it's at 140-ish million sold. Jesus, they're 15 away from the top spot. They very well could reach it, right? Because we assume, hey, the next generation console comes out and they stop making the old ones. They don't. They keep going.
Yep.
Because people around the world will still keep buying the old one because they can now get it maybe cheaper or something, right? They still go for the old one. So there'll be like 2 or 3 year runway. It's very likely the Switch will end up being the top selling console of all time by the time it ends its run. Just craziness how Nintendo works, right? But yeah, so interesting, right? The financials come out, more revenue, and as unfortunately as expected, less profit, which is sad. It's just sad. That's something they should really be focusing on, which they are. They have to. There's no choice.
Well, I mean, again, you cannot. I don't know if there's if they can as a company, and I'm talking about PlayStation only, can sustain $300 million budgets for games. They just can't. Shout out to Chris713 in the chat. He's always here. Chris, love that you're here, brother. He says, "Boom, you've been level 6 since Monday. Come on, play a bit to get off level 6." Look, here's the thing. To be fair to me. Sunday the servers were nerfed, right, the whole day. On Monday, when I tried to play, doesn't stay, hey folks, FYI, we're doing server work. Some places are I couldn't get on. And then of course I'm reviewing a game. So I'm Focus Entertainment sent me Banishers of New Eden. I'll give you a quick preview. Freaking amazing. It's been developed by Don't Nod. Another winner, man. Just another winner for that team. Absolutely astoundingly good. And of course, Tomb Raider just came out. And I'm sorry, I gotta play the Tomb Raider trilogy. I know that made it, and it's not by Crystal Dynamics and the whole whatever, but it's Tomb Raider 1, 2, 3.
Aspire, right?
Yeah, Aspire did it. So I don't know what I'm getting myself into, but
I mean, so far it seems to be doing as far as reviews, okay.
Okay, so that's good. So I mean, they did a good job. So I'm looking forward to that. But Chris, I promise you, brother, I'm going to get off level 6 at some point. I got to get back to it. But the 2 times that I really wanted to play, I couldn't get on for the service, so it was a little bit frustrating. But let me catch up on super chats. We're going to get into this no exclusive thing for 14 months. This is, to me, this is some spooky territory, if you will. Chris 713, who's been a channel member for 10 months. Chris, thank you for the generosity, brother. He says, now we see why the Hoove brothers and sisters are port begging for Xbox games. I mean, that's a strong point. J-Mac drops a very generous $5 super chat, and he says, is it me, or is the industry starting to trend away from console war? I think they love money, and I think that they'll stoke the fires, especially like Sony will. I don't know if Sony's ever going to be as pointed as they were. Like, this is how you share games. I don't know if they'll ever do that again, but you never know. I don't know if they ever really entertain the console war per se, but
a really good. I know Microsoft will never do it. This is how you release games.
So good. Yeah, that'd be so good. They wouldn't do that. They would. You should work for marketing, Hargy. I love it. Nerds and Other Legends drops an outstanding $10 super chat. Welcome to the program, and thank you for the generosity. He says this: I've come around to the multi-plat idea, a transition from a console war to a war of software. The first to focus their software engineers on solving the problem of dev cycles will have the edge. That's a phenomenal theory. And I'm going to be honest with you. I think that just based on monies and how many studios are in possession of each of the platforms, I think you have to tip your cap to Xbox on that. I really do, especially because they're going to be using AI moving forward, and that is going to help out. I mean, they're leading the charge on that, right? They're going to be the ones in front of it all, which is why they invested in OpenAI. And it's coming, folks. Game development of some sorts. I don't know what, because I'm not a game developer. AI is going to be involved to help speed up the process of these big bombastic games taking 6 years to cut a year, cut 2, cut 3 years. I don't know, but we'll see. That's a great point, Nerds and Other Legends. Highlander 001, for the love of Joe, he gifts another 5 double barrel gaming memberships. Bro, that is so kind of you to consistently keep doing that. Thank you so much. That is incredibly generous of you. He, of course, follows that with a $5 super chat, and he says, afternoon boom and panel. The Sony content creators are starting their damage control. they could say whatever they want. If their fans believe them, then they're at the smoke they're being blown up their ass. Good on them. Maybe it tickles. I don't know what to tell you. But yeah, there is no denying that there is problems at SIE, which we're going to get into on the second half.
Well,
of
I
this
better
show.
hear the same joke. It's not like we're PlayStation here, not releasing any games.
Right, of course. They have games coming out. Yeah, they do. Yeah. I'm just saying, if someone were to say PlayStation has no games, they'd be like Final Fantasy. And you'd be right to say that, but that's not their game. Now, if you want to get into the schematics of it.
But Xbox had third-party exclusives.
They did.
They didn't have first-party exclusives,
and
so
it wasn't good enough.
lambasted.
Yeah, right. They
so
get
I
lambasted.
expect the same for PlayStation. Same energy.
Well, those kids, they don't play with the same energy. Kids, they nowadays it's that weird energy, as we like to hear. Dean Rivera drops a very generous $5 super chat, and he says, "LOL" at Jeff Keighley tweeting about PlayStation console sales today, not about other news like them not having games until next year. He is such a joke. He's also a damage control guy, and he's also a PlayStation guy, and that's what he's going to do. That's damage control that's going out. Let's talk about, and that's the thing that I find to be hilarious, is that Sony could lose leadership. They could rake you over the coals by nickel and diming you on stands, vertical stands. They could raise prices. They could tell we can have confirmed reports of no games for the next 14 months that are considered AAA bangers. And you know what? It is almost every freaking time the peoples retreat to, what? Holy shit, do you know how many consoles they sold? Folks, what about, this is the gift that comes to mind to me is the guy from Naked Gun. No problems. And the whole fucking world behind them is exploding. And he's like, yeah, no problems here. You just disperse. It's okay. It is. Come on, folks. Be an adult. Be the adult in the room. Stand up. Pull up your pants. You know what I'm saying? Be for real. Console sales are great. Awesome. But come on. It's so much more to that. Anyone says otherwise is just full of shit. Sorry. Stitch 6669 has been a channel member for 3 months. Stitch, thank you so much for the generosity. He says this: why isn't the pony community not raging about this? But when it comes to Xbox, they're always pointing out the negatives. And literally, to sum up exactly what I just said, I couldn't have said it any better, Chris. I want to go to this new report. Now, let me go into, let me see where my stuff is here. I know I sent it over to you, Fuzzy, so let me just pull this up. Okay, so what I find to be pretty incredible, and Hargeet, I'm going to go right to you first on this. We have learned that, and this is confirmed, folks, everyone's reporting on it. GameSpot is reporting on it. VGC is reporting on it. Jeff Grubb's talking about it. Everyone is. So it's not like, oh, this is BoomStick, combing the earth for negative information. It's out there, which is why we did this breaking news special. Because, I figured, well, I'm not having a show tonight. Let's talk about it. Let's have a conversation. I don't know about you folks, and I understand what third party is, and I understand what second party is, and I understand what first party is. What I don't understand is how specifically the gaming media, they knew about this. Now it's out. Now the cat's out of the bag. You ain't getting that cat back in the bag. That cat is banging everything on your block. He ain't getting back in the bag. Hargeet, 18 months until we see the next quote unquote AAA first party release. That's a freaking problem. Now, is it a problem per se on services? Well, not really, because they don't do day and date. Like if this was Xbox, it would be a problem, as it was in 2022, which of course we as Xbox First fans gave them the business. They shit the bed. Sorry, it's just what they did. They did not have a course correction or a plan for 3 major AAA games all having to be delayed into the following year. One of which did not do well, which is Redfall, and the other 2 did fantastic. So they had to eat it. Now they had Pentiment and a few other smaller ones in there. and had a few third-party stuff in, like High on Life was an exclusive to the console. I thought that was a great game, big and a big deal. Game Pass day and date. Okay, so they didn't make the game, but that didn't count, Hargy. That didn't count. Any of the third-party stuff, even if it was exclusives, well, that doesn't count because they didn't make it. Oh, okay. Good on you for that, because now I'm going to use that against you. No first-party games until April of 2025. Jesus, we're still in the first 2 weeks of February of 24. I think that's kind of a problem, Hargeet.
Yeah. So first, I'm going to be very fair to them, and that they are going to have a release in next month, March, of MLB The Show. And I know
Okay,
Sony
all right, fair.
has decided Sony San Diego doesn't exist, and they don't market it, and they don't care about it. They didn't even mention it in their own freaking press release. I don't know what's going on there. I honestly don't. Like, have they like divorced themselves of them? Like, it is a release. It's coming out. It's like you have a game. So I will be fair and say they do have MLB The Show coming this year. Cool. They had it last year as well. Cool. So they had 3 games last year with Call of the Mountain in the VR space, which it's the VR space, so who cares? MLB The Show, and then of course Spider-Man. Their next major release outside of the annualized MLB The Show will be at least beyond March of next year, right? So sometime after April. I don't know when it's after April, by the way. We don't know, right? It could be something that comes out in November of that year. It could be September, whatever. We don't know when the next actual game comes out because nothing has been announced. So it is kind of a problem when you look at it from that perspective, right? Because similar to what we had in 2022 for Xbox, where they released Pentiment and Grounded, nobody gave them any credit for those games. Okay, fair enough. Then you know what? We don't give you credit for MLB The Show, but I will, because I loved Grounded. I played 200 hours of it. To me, that was a great game. It certainly eclipsed anything I did on PlayStation side. So that's a good game for me, but oh well. And so this is kind of the thing you play with these like exclusive things. So there won't be an exclusive first party game for I don't know how long. October is when they release Spider-Man 2.
Oh, can I give you an update quick? Real quick. We have confirmation if Insomniac Games just tweeted, folks, because we've got to give credit where credit is due. We do that here. They have officially announced that they have sold 10 million copies of Spider-Man 2. That is awesome. Coming directly from Insomniac Games. So, of course, golf clap, that's a big deal. That is a big deal. That is a big deal because it's an exclusive to their platform.
That's awesome.
Which is only the PlayStation 5.
As of February? As of this month? Or as of January?
Okay, so it says here, today we're honored to celebrate an amazing milestone. Marvel's Spider-Man 2 PS5 has surpassed 10 million units sold, bringing the game series sales to an astounding 50 million units in total. That means, of course, Spider-Man, Miles Morales, and of course this. That's a huge deal. Awesome. But they don't specifically say exactly when that is from. That was just tweeted. So
okay, that's probably within the January timeframe. That's good. So they added 3 more million in January. That's fantastic, right? So and hopefully they're closing in on profitability, which would be great. Hopefully they're now profitable. But either way, so as far as October to whenever, there's going to be a whole year of just MLB The Show. Okay. Will that be enough for everybody to say that, hey, at least they had MLB The Show? Or will they say, hey, where are the games for PlayStation? Because certainly when there were smaller games, to be fair, Ghostwire Tokyo also released in 2022. It just released on PlayStation 5, but it was a first-party release from Xbox. And I don't know if you call it AA, AAA, whatever you want to call it, but Ghostwire Tokyo was a release along with Grounded and Pentiment. But none of that credit was given to Xbox. So given that, I would expect the same energy here and say, well, MLB The Show is a multi-platform release. It doesn't count. Where are the games? PlayStation, why don't you have a game for whatever 18 months, maybe up to 2 years? Because we don't know when in 2025 they actually have a game release. We don't know, right? April just means the next fiscal, right? So they have their fiscal year ends at the end of March. So that's all they're saying is that this coming fiscal year, they have nothing. So as of April 2025, that fiscal year, they will hopefully have a release, which also is not confirmed. It just means that we'll not have anything this fiscal year. And then sometime next fiscal year, maybe we will have something to talk about, right? It's a dry spell for them. But look, I'm expecting the same energy then, right? So everybody in the industry should be lambasting PlayStation for not having any releases.
Yep.
Will they do it?
No, they will not.
And if I don't see the same energy, hello Xbox tax, like you gotta just accept it. Like you're very clearly going to be biased towards PlayStation if you don't lambast PlayStation for not having anything for at least 15 to 16 months, right? Like October through, what does that come out to? Probably 17 months, something like that, right? Before they have a
yeah,
release.
if you, depending on where you leverage the release of technically their first party studios, Insomniac, versus the MLB The Show, which is coming out. But the truth of the matter is that yes, the MLB The Show, it is first party, right? It's a multi platform release, and again, you keep saying the energy. There, we are working with two different types of way things are broken down. There's the PlayStation way, which is you can't say anything because PlayStation is number one, and there's Xbox, and the sky is falling. That is a fact. Now you can call it tax, you can call it whatever you want to say it is, biased, whatever. Fine, whatever. The truth of the matter is that if you are a PlayStation fan that enjoys their single player story driven content like I do, not having an official Ghost of Tsushima 2 or an Uncharted 4 or a whatever you want to put in there as that's your favorite IP, and we're not getting any of that for at least until April of 2025. You must be crazy if you think that you can't say anything. I'm sorry.
They should, right? And I guess Jeff Grubb at least is saying something, which is good. But hey, I don't know that we're going to get the same energy. We should, right? We should see that. But if they don't, what's the disincentive for Sony to not keep doing this besides profit? And that, of course, is the biggest driver. And ultimately, they're going to have to decide with the next CEO, do I greenlight everything that costs hundreds of millions, or do I greenlight something that costs 5 million and say, hey, I'll take the chance on 5 million. If I lose it, I lose it. But hey, it could generate 30, and that's just pure profit. Like, why not take the freaking profit, right? Yep. And offset some of the costs I'm getting with these massive games, which, by the way, is what Xbox is doing. They greenlight all sorts of smaller projects to offset the cost of the bigger projects, right? So, you can get a bigger AAA game, but you're also going to get a Grounded or Pentiment. You're also going to get an Avowed. You're going to get Hellblade 2, which, is still what, 30, 40 people, whatever it was. It's not, it's not in the 300 people range. Okay, cool. Doesn't matter, right? It looks good. It's probably going to be a good, 8-hour game, and that's enough. It doesn't have to be a 50-hour game to make it worth its while. So as long as you can get something out of it, it makes you money, why not, right? Yep. They have to shift the mindset here that you can't just take, and Phil saw that a while ago. So did Sean. He got fired, but he was right. You can't keep sustaining this. It's not possible. You can do 1 or 2 of these things. You have to do 5 or 6 of the other kind to make up for it. And hopefully of those 5 or 6, 3 will do it. They'll actually make you money. And that's how you kind of sustain this. Whereas Jim Ryan's idea was, well, this Naughty Dog game made a lot of profit, therefore we should just do everything as a Naughty Dog game. It's like, that's not how these things work.
Yeah,
you have to diversify your portfolio. It's just not the way it is. You have to have smaller things that can potentially take off. I mean, Pal World's just a recent example, but there are many like that, where you take a small gamble and say, does this work out? If it does, it does. A lot of them don't. That's okay. Couple of them will, and when they do, it'll get you a lot of revenue, and that's the whole point, right? So That's what you got to kind of deal with. Nintendo does this all the time with weird ass games.
Yes.
Some of them don't go anywhere. That's fine, but some of them do, right? That's how you get a Pikmin. That's how you get a Splatoon, right? You also had Mario Strikers. I don't know how well that did, but you get all
Probably
sorts
not
of weirdo
well at
games.
all. And Mario Strikers has always been like one of those, they'll sell a couple of million and that's it, but they still make it though.
But they try. They try all sorts of weird stuff. Kudos to them, right? Like you have your mainstay games, but you also just try weird things, and some of them will take off. That's great. Like you get something out of it. So that's what you got to do. You got to try some weird things, try some big things. It's fine, and that's how you can Nintendo just keeps printing money, of course, but whatever, right? So hopefully Sony will diversify and do that, and they are at least switching over to the gas thing. Though doing everything games as a service wasn't a great idea, which is I don't know what the heck Jim Ryan was thinking, but anyway, whatever. So hopefully they get a little better with that. But yeah, 18 months, whatever it is, maybe more, maybe up to 2 years of nothing as far as first party exclusives. Yeah, I mean, I really hope they get the smoke for that. They really should get the smoke for that. Now, look, they have a pedigree. Fine, that's fair. But as I've been pointing out, as far as number of releases from the generation start, it's dead even between Xbox and PlayStation. They both released the same number of games first party. So it's not like it's a huge delta here. It just feels like there's more on the PlayStation side because a majority of those games are AAA big bangers. A lot of the Microsoft ones are things like Grounded or Pentiment. They're still releases, but they're not as big. So they don't get counted as much. But they're games. And I kind of like the Microsoft way.
It's interesting how you said they don't get counted. It seems like it's a very, very weird way of doing things. Now, before I bring in Fuzzy, because Fuzzy, I have an interesting theory for you. Rum Punch Man is in the chat. Rum Punch, welcome as always. Happy to have you here. Can you clarify this for us, Hargeet? Because I know the answer, but I like the way you break it down. He says Helldivers is first party because Sony published it. MLB The Show is third party because they don't. I don't think that's the case.
No, so
Helldivers would be considered second party, because they don't own the studio and they
own the IP.
They own the IP,
right?
And they're publishing the game.
Yeah. So you can have multiple definitions of first party. A lot of times the publisher assumes first party means it's our IP and who cares what studio it is. My definition simply is you own the studio. So it's first party to me, it's you own the studio.
Yes.
Right. So for instance, Microsoft Flight Simulator is a first party IP, but it's not done by a first party studio.
No, it's
done by a Sobo.
Yeah.
So they've contracted it out. No problem. Minecraft Legends and Dungeons were not done by Mojang. They were done by external studios. But obviously, Minecraft is a fully owned Xbox IP, right? It's their first party IP, right? But so not necessarily first party. So you can define it however you like. Publishers like to say first party is stuff. Well, publishers and platforms like to say the first party is anything they own the IP of. So Ori would be a first party, but it's not really a first party because it was Moon Studios who did the game. They do not own Moon Studios. Moon Studios is not making was it like a fantasy MMO or something? They're making something totally different by
No Rest for the Wicked.
Yeah. Somebody else is publishing their game, right? So it's not going to be anything to do with Xbox. So this is kind of the thing, right? So to me, first party means it's you own the studio, right? So it's a PlayStation studio or it's an Xbox studio. They own it. It's soup to nuts, their game. So that would be what I would consider first party. But there are many definitions out there. So, but MLB The Show, by any definition, it's a first party studio. It is owned Sony San Diego, fully owned by Sony. They don't own the license, obviously, because it's MLB, right? But they make the game and they publish the game.
They own the studio.
They own the studio. In that specific case, though, they split publishing. Where on PlayStation, the publishing is by PlayStation Studios, but by
Xbox,
by MLB themselves.
Yeah,
for any other platform. So there's a little weird there, but that's the choice they made. So that's how that one works out. But it is 100% to me. That is a first party studio. It's owned by Sony. They own it. They own the studio and pay all their paychecks. It's theirs. So I would consider that first party to me anyway.
Okay, I mean that's a fair assessment. Now, real quick, Nerd Rick in the chat. Welcome, kind sir. Thanks so much for joining us, folks. We are closing in on 1,100 people. Holy gaming gods! I cannot believe this wasn't even a scheduled cast. Thank you so much for being here. If somehow you are finding the channel for the first time, please consider subscribing. I do this Monday through Friday. We all have a nice schedule. Most of the shows are midday. I have one show at night, which is normally Wednesdays. It's primetime gaming, but because, of course, of the holiday, we're taking off. That's why we're having this show this afternoon. Nerd Rick says this, and this I want to answer this question, and it's a fantastic question. So, Nerd Rick, welcome to the program, brother. Good question. He says, I don't get the issue. Yes, Jim Ryan messed things up and PlayStation had to regroup is what it is, or it is what it is. End of day, there are still games to play, whether it be first party, second party, or third party. Now, that is a fair assessment, but you see, I'm not saying it's you that's saying this. The industry, that's half truths, because even when Xbox had games to play, Xbox had no games. And that was the running narrative, and that hurt them. The media drove that narrative down the throats of everyone, whether you were a fan of Xbox or you weren't. They drove that point home. So what you're saying is, of course, it is true. Xbox or PlayStation, even though they don't have any first-party games coming out for at least a foreseeable 15 to 18 months, which is a little spooky, to be honest with you, they still have games to play. And obviously, two of the big ones that I bought, and I'm not ashamed to say I bought them, was Helldivers, and I dropped $10 on an outfit, that's what you do with gas games. And I was very happy to do it. And I bought the digital deluxe version of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, because that's going to be a freaking banger. And that's the only place I could play it. So that's what I'm going to buy. But that's, again, it's not saying that you're saying this, obviously, Rick. It's half truths because the industry tells us that it's half truths. Xbox didn't have any games for the narrative for years, even when they had games, but they're second party or they're third party or they're indie. They don't count. Game's a game. Does it matter if it's made by one person like Vampire Survivors or 300 people like a Naughty Dog game? It's still a game. But a great post, brother. So before we bring you in, Fuzzy, let me just catch up on some super chats here. We have Mandingo McThickens. What's going on, brother? Love the name. He says this after dropping a $5 super chat. Boom. Whatever does PlayStation PS mean? Aren't they getting some Xbox exclusives? We all know how Xbox is treated versus PlayStation journalism-wise. Yeah, it's unfortunate. It's Hargeet keeps banging the drum, and I'm going to bang it with him. It is the Xbox tax. People don't want to call it that, but it is just clearly what it is. So we have Chris R. Hey, Chris, welcome back to the program. He drops a very generous $5 super chat, and he says, in a world where Sony and Xbox are third party, the interchangeables will matter more. For example, back compat and allowing us to keep our multi-gen libraries. Yeah, there are a lot of things that Microsoft does in regards to their software and their services that no one ever gives them credit for. Quick Resume is by far the freaking greatest thing that no one talks about, and Sony does not have, and Nintendo does not have. That is, when you're running through game and switching, and it's a snap. You're back in the other game. It's crazy. It's crazy good. But that's a great point, Chris. Excellent. We have Sir X-Man drops an additional very generous $2 super chat. He says, I told you years ago Sony is on corporate welfare. I mean, they're still they're a $1 billion company. So I don't know if they're on welfare per se, but they definitely don't have the wiggle room, especially now where, consoles are selling. Yes, I get it. And how much of the profit are they making on those consoles? I don't know. It can't be that much though. We'll see. I think you can start to see, because they even forecasted it. Hiroki Totoki said he expects console sales to slow down significantly. He said that. I didn't. Jay Rambert drops a very generous $5 super chat, and he says, while Sony is kind of down, this is a prime opportunity for Microsoft to take advantage MS, I know you're watching. Yes, you should take advantage. Let's see if they screw this up as well. Yeah, well, Jay, look, if there's one thing that you have to understand as an Xbox fan, they just love stepping on those goddamn rakes. It's just crazy. You know, I'm going to pull a card right out of Fuzzy's hat here, and he's not wearing one, but I'm going to pull it out anyway. All right. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes, i.e., sometimes Xbox.
If you're ready for the screw up, just tune in tomorrow, 3 p.m. Eastern.
Oh, gosh, I hope not, Harky. Bite your tongue, sir. He says, Sir X-Men drops an additional $2. So Jen says, Tomb Raider is fire. But learn of the controller is fine. I hope the control is at least somewhat modernized.
They have the toggle between like
old
controls
excellent.
and new
okay.
controls.
Okay, excellent. That's good. Double K24, who's been a channel member for 32 months. Double K, brother, that is very generous of you. Thank you. He says Sony Tactics put out news before Xbox update to make people forget. Interesting theory there. But look, Fuzzy Belvedere, this is how I'm gonna position this question for you. So people are in the community, whether you are a diehard Sony fan, or you're kind of like me who supports everything and is happy to do so. You're like, well, is it really gonna be that bad in 2024 for Sony? I mean, look, came out of nowhere. Helldivers could have taken a dump, and it didn't. It's a really good game. It's a lot of fun. It was over 200,000 concurrent players. Unfortunately, more players were Steam members than they were PlayStation players, which is, again, a little embarrassing considering it's on their box. Final Fantasy is going to be a big game for release for them. MLB The Show is going to do what it always does. It's probably going to sell 2 million copies on PlayStation. And that's the normal thing, 2.5, 2.6. It's just baseball is a little niche. I don't play it, but it's fine. People enjoy it. Let me paint this picture for you, Fuzzy. Here's the problem. The problem when you look at what is happening in this year, we're only taking this year. I'm not talking about 2025. I'm not talking about 2023. Let's just take this 12 months of 2024. Xbox is slated to release major first-party IP, all being either only had one game before it or all new IP. Indiana Jones, Hellblade 2, Avowed, Towerborn, Flight Sim. There's a couple of RTSs coming out that are going to be both on Xbox, and there's some are going to be only like Aura is only on PC. And so they have bullets in the chamber, and they're ready to fire. Now, mind you, there are rumors, and I've talked about this before, that we could potentially get a Gears of War collection in June. That's still a possibility, right? There's a bunch of other things. I mean, Aaron Greenberg said it himself. We are releasing things this year that we haven't even talked about yet. So that's confirmed.
Yeah.
Now, you kind of look over here, and you have little old Nintendo who they freaking can't miss. They're closing in on beating PlayStation 2 on lifetime sales, and they're going to do it. But they just so happen to be releasing a new console, the Switch 2, or whatever the hell it's going to be called, this year. And on top of a Switch 2 release, we are hearing that minimum 3 launch first-party IPs, right? There's going to be the heavy rumor is there's a new 3D Mario. That's not a surprise. That's expected. F-Zero, a remake, is expected as well. And there's 1 or 2 others. What are those going to be? Is it going to be new Animal Crossing? Well, I'm buying 3 consoles then, because Mrs. Boom's getting one, Tyler's getting one, and I'm getting one, and we're all getting Animal Crossing. So they're going to rake me over the coals. It's fine. So they have at least 3, maybe 4, because they don't mess around with their launches.
Yeah.
And Sony, well, they have Ugats. They got nothing coming out this year. They don't have a major Spider-Man level title coming out in 2024. Folks, they're not doomed. They're not dead in the water. They're not DOA, but they are in a pickle when you consider what Xbox continues to do. And all those games are day and date, first party in Game Pass, and what Nintendo's doing. I don't know if I want to be a part of the sandwich. I'm just saying.
Well, the funny thing is, probably by 2025, that title that will be their, first party AAA will probably be from Insomniac again.
It'd be Wolverine.
Uh,
You said that earlier. Yeah.
It'll either be, Wolverine, or maybe even what was that other one that we saw in the leak? Venom, like
Venom
the
is
smaller
that.
experience, almost like a Miles Morales kind of thing.
Yeah.
But we'll see what that winds up being. But I know some people want to count things like, oh, well, what about Fair Game? What about Concord? Here's a question. Has anybody seen gameplay for Concord? So tell me, do you think you're going to see Concord this year or next year? Honestly, like, has Sony ever shown
Well, we know,
or
Fezzi, we're
released a
not,
game? Yeah,
because it's a first party game, right?
yeah,
So
it is
it's
a
definitely
first-party
not
game.
happening in this coming fiscal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
There
I
you
don't
go.
think
That's a good
Sony's
point.
ever
Great point.
released
I
a
didn't
game.
even equate that. It's a great point, Hargi. Yes.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's seen Sony release a game without some sort of gameplay, at least in the past decade, maybe even the past 2 decades, the same year without showing any gameplay. So I wouldn't expect Concord anytime soon. Fair Game, we saw CGI. I would expect to see some gameplay before we see, and see a release date before we even think of it being in this year, let alone possibly next year. And given how a lot of their gas games, other than Helldivers, which was you know, their IP through another studio, we've seen a lot of those games either get shelved or it was originally, I think, 10 or 12, and at least half of them got shelved or canceled. So let's see if Fair Game actually makes it to launch here.
Yeah. Good
And
point.
then even with some of their money hat stuff, like, okay, Final Fantasy is going to probably do numbers for them. No doubt about that. But is anybody talking about Foam Stars? Like, I think
No.
Foam Stars actually died faster than Destruction All Stars. I'm just
It
saying.
probably did. No, it's true.
But as somebody that owns a PS5, I would love to hear what Ben Studios is working on. They're supposed to be working on a new IP since their whole deal for having, was it Days Gone 2, got shot down years ago. So they've
Yeah.
been working for 5 or 6 years on a game that we have no idea what it is. And to be understood, but maybe there's a secret second showcase or whatever secret second Sony super secret showcase, however you want to say it. Maybe it'll make an appearance
That's
at
a lot
some
of
point.
S's, sir. I can't believe you were able to get that out. I would have been tongue tied.
But at some point, maybe we'll see what Ben Studios is working on. I mean, I wouldn't expect the Ghost of Tsushima 2 anytime soon because we still haven't seen the full release on PC, and we know the whole slate's coming to PC. So I can't imagine them doing a 2 before it comes to PC, at least at this time and date. Like, it would be a little bit different considering like what they did with Horizon. But this go around, things are going to at least be 6 months to a year apart. Although Helldivers is probably showing them that there's going to be a need to do day and date, especially for the games as a service, but maybe even their single player games, considering when they do come to Steam, they don't do quite the same numbers as what you would expect. Like, they sell like gangbusters, like a Spider-Man Miles Morales did, I think 11 million within its first year on the PS5 alone, type of deal. Some of it bundled, most of it not, but with it being a launch title, it makes sense. But when it came to, I think, Steam, I don't think it even reached 1 million. So I could be wrong. I think the last time I checked, it was somewhere in like the 400 to 500,000 range. Double check me if I'm wrong. But in the grand scheme of things, I think a lot of these games are going to start moving to PC day and date. But in between that time, like, Xbox got raked over the coals in the year 2022. Sure, we had Pentiment. Sure, we had Grounded with its 1.0 release. Sure, we had updates to a lot of the games that we have. Sure, there was Ghost Wire Tokyo. We wound up getting Deathloop on the actual console and everything, but it seemed like the gaming media didn't care, and it was all about the fact that there was no major AAA bangers on Xbox for that year of 2022. Sure, there were plenty of games, but now it seems like when the shoe's on the other foot, oh well, we that doesn't matter. We have plenty of games, even if it's not first party, and it's just funny to me that that's the ever moving goalpost that someone on the Team Blue or even in the gaming media always try and pull type of deal. I mean, me personally, I don't understand why after like the stellar year that PlayStation had with the PS4, or stellar years, I should say, with PlayStation 4, that they didn't have a more thought out roadmap. Sure, I understand COVID and the whole, delay on things and things like that. But if that was, if let's say COVID didn't exist, like, would you have had all of those games heavily weighted that we did receive from launch to now? Would all of those been like in the launch window, and then we would still have this big hiatus for maybe what would have been 21 to 23 range? I mean, I don't get why there isn't many people asking what they're working on beyond, like Factions, which got canceled. It seemed like it was probably about 3 steps away from the finish line, and they shot it in the foot type of thing, which, to me is kind of weird. Especially if you relied on Bungie as being your critiquer, or the one that gives the green light or the thumbs up or whatever, considering they missed their own projections and then had to delay their own releases themselves. Like I've said before, if I was somebody over at Naughty Dog, I would have kicked the door in at some of the executives, offices, as far as when it comes to Sony, and be like, how are you going to have them tell me what to do? And they can't even get their own, stuff together, kind of deal. I don't understand why there isn't as much of a call for, what's going on with Naughty Dog, what's going on with Sony Santa Monica after, God of War type of deal. What's going on with, Sucker Punch at this point in time? Like, I mean, sure, the games are coming, but are they coming? Apparently they're not coming until 2025. So I don't know. It just feels weird that there's this, moment of silence as far as where the games are, just because there's a lot of third party money had stuff that's kind of filling that gap. But when Xbox does it, or has things come day and date to Game Pass during probably one of their drier years in 22, and everybody wanted to put fire fill, Xbox has no games and whatnot. It's like, well, I guess it's too soon to say fired Hiroki Totoki or whatever his name is, type of deal. But
yeah, well, he's like I said, he's interim. I have a feeling that you're not going to, like, for instance, a lot of people were asking if Herman Holtz was going to take over. He's not. They would have given him a position already. They're going to hire from within. I think it's going to be somebody out of Sony Japan, personally, because they have no confidence of the way things were done. And I honestly don't think they have any confidence in Herman, to be honest with you, because if they did, he would have taken over for Jim, and he didn't. So
Gonna try to pivot back to Japan. You mean a little bit like that?
Yeah. Well, I say the scorched earth, even though he has a lot of skeletons in this closet and bad baggage type of thing. Scorched earth, you want to get Sony back to its old days of stepping on everybody's neck. Put Bobby Kotick in the helm. I mean, sure, he has some baggage or whatever, but I think he would be the perfect one to say, you know what, we don't need Call of Duty. We'll make something ourselves with SOCOM. We don't need
Funny,
to worry about what Microsoft
lives in the same
does.
place, right?
Yeah.
Sony's headquartered in San Francisco, right?
Mm-hmm. So he could just, it would be a slightly different route to work in the morning, kind of thing, So
there is
I'm
somebody
just saying,
else.
maybe that might be their best interest.
No, you're talking about.
I don't want them to do it, but
ex Blizzard leader potentially going over to Sony. I don't know.
Oh yeah.
Ibarra would see. If I was a PlayStation guy that's against PC, I wouldn't want Ibarra. Like, I'm fine with Ibarra going over there because I know he will make it so they do day and date for PC.
Yes, he's a PC guy. He always has been. There.
Yeah. I think the big thing there is PC will be a bigger focus than what it is today, and that might anger some of the PlayStation Hoove brothers out there.
The purists, for sure.
There's no way out of it.
But I think Bobby Kotick is, even though he's a flawed leader by all accounts, but I think he would probably be a better fit to kind of bring the old, Sean Layden energy to some extent, and possibly show them the best way to make profits, even if it means crunch to the extreme. But we'll see.
Yep. I agree. Listen, we're already at the 120 mark. I do have one closing thought, and I want to pose this for the chat, and I want to pose this for the panel. And I'll go first to Fuzzy on this. Fuzzy, okay, so we have it. It's confirmed, folks. No major first party release outside of MLB The Show in 2024. With that said, We know that we will not see anything new until minimum of April of 25. I can't even fathom that. That's crazy, right? I want to sit back and like on a perch and watch this thing transpire for the next couple of days to see if everyone just poo-poos this and everyone's like, yeah, Xbox, they suck, and no one's going to talk about this. We'll see. Well, if we don't see any movement, we'll be talking about this on Breakfast of Boom. Rest assured, we got stuff still left to say. Here's my question to you guys. If there are no major plans for first party until minimum of 2025, do they skip a June show? Like remember, last year was the first time they come back in 2 years, and it was a shit show. Now they have nothing to show because nothing's coming out. Do they actually even have a show?
I think they do. And it's going to sound weird, but Xbox did something similar with, although they had a lot more to show when they showed the Xbox One X, but then again, there wasn't as many new titles from first party at the time. But I think a PS5 Pro winds up being the star of the June showcase for them. Like, I don't think they technically do a showcase. Like, it's going to be kind of like the last one where it's a couple of money-headed titles. Maybe we actually get to see gameplay of Fair Game and Concord, even though we won't see them this year. Maybe they show actual gameplay of those. Maybe they announce another games as a service that is in the works that we don't know about just yet.
SOCOM possibly?
That would be nice.
Fall of Man would be dope.
But I think the highlight will be the PlayStation 5 Pro, and how not just the remasters will look, but how all of the games will now have a little bit more of an improvement on fidelity, especially if you have an 8K TV and 60 frames guaranteed type of thing. Although looking at the specs of what was leaked so far on the PS5 Pro, RDNA 3 is not what gets you to 60 frames. That's all. RDNA 3 is all about efficiency. So if you want to listen to knuckleheads out there about the RDNA stuff, have at it. But maybe they found a way to make the clock and all that stuff a little bit more stable, and that they can get a little bit more out of it, so that way it can do 60 frames on a lot of the games that are capped at 30. And maybe, just maybe, and this would probably be the highlight of their showcase, maybe there's another trailer from Rockstar for Grand Theft Auto 6 where shown running on a PS6, or not PS6, a PS5 Pro.
A Pro.
I think that's their own. I won't say their only way, but that's their best foot forward.
I mean, makes sense. You've heard my spiel, folks. I understand it would have cost a lot of money, but marketing GTA 6 is for me. If let's just say for shits and giggles for 24 hours, I'm running Xbox. Phil, go take a break. Go play some games, brother. I got you for the next 24 hours. That's the first thing I'm doing. We're marketing this game. We are going to market this game like a crazy bunch of knuckleheads, that it's going to be everywhere. Buses, trains, automobiles, on basketballs, wherever you want to put it, right alongside the new Call of Duty. And that's how we're gonna roll this the Xbox getting out of this generation, because people are gonna be like, holy shit, it's an exclusive. That's how much marketing I would do. But again, I'm not in charge, and I'm just a knucklehead podcaster, so what the hell do I know? Hargeet. Okay, let's same question. Do they, being that they have nothing to show, do they skip having a show, like their own dedicated quote unquote PlayStation show? Like, everyone thought last year was going to be the Year of Dreams Part 2. Hell, I thought it was going to be the Year of Dreams Part 2 because, well, they hadn't did one in 2 years. I'm like, yep, this is just lining up, man, for Sony to just do their thing. They're masters of the marketing, right? They just know what they're doing. Yeah. And they took a dump. One show after another, just garbage. If they have nothing scheduled for this year, and they have nothing scheduled at least until April of 2025, do you spend the money on a show?
Look, like Fuzzy mentioned, there is a PS5 Pro potentially coming, and I assume that's still on the docket. I don't know. Seeing as how Xbox is fully, like, it's just obvious they're just not doing one, right? There's just no plan for a Pro Xbox mid-gen console, right? So if they want to do that, then they have to showcase it. There's no way around it, right? This would be something under the Jim Ryan era because the showcase has to be locked several months ahead of time, right? So
Yep.
though they might make last minute changes, right? What they're going to be showing, they've got to have already had that planned out. So I would expect that, the leadership change won't necessarily be an issue because that could also be another oddity, right? That you're an interim CEO and maybe Hiroki doesn't know what he wants to really do here. And then maybe they do find somebody and then you have more turmoil. But no, I think the show would already have been kind of decided. There could be last minute. This one is making it. That one isn't making it, that kind of thing. Right. So there might be last minute changes, but I think the show is probably, so if they do have one, it's probably locked already. And it would probably be a PS5 Pro showcase. That kind of makes sense. Here's another thing to think about. This is, last year was the last time they get to showcase Call of Duty. It was also the last time Call of Duty is likely going to be a cross-gen game. So I don't know if the next one will be cross-gen. It's likely it won't be. And this will be the call to action for anybody who's not already upgraded. This is the time to go to the next generation. And it would seem, at least by all rights, Xbox will now be marketing that game. So their June showcase will have that big, huge title. GTA would be a good foil to that. It would be. But, GTA's marketing rights are very expensive.
Yeah.
And what did we just hear? They're running low on profits. Let's say the marketing right is something in the billion range, and that wouldn't be unheard of for GTA.
Right.
If it's in the billion range, are they going to be able to spend that? Is Sony going to be able to spend that? Microsoft could not even worry about it and just spend it, right? But as a business, Microsoft's also going to say, well, what's the return on investment? If you want to take that money from us, what's the point? Because again, look, yes, they have hundreds of billions in the bank and they could easily, crap $1 billion, $2 billion. It doesn't matter to them, but their shareholders will want value and they'll say, well, what are we getting for that? Right. You have to go back to the board and say, I did this because, right. And so is it going to make sense when you already have the other big title, Call of Duty, and they just gave you 70 billion to go buy it. Right. So, I don't know that they're going to do it on that side. I know that, Boom, you want them to. But who does have a boatload of cash, happens to be releasing a brand new console that might be able to play.
Could you imagine if Nintendo did? Wow, that would be crazy. That would be hilarity, honestly.
What world would we be in if that was the case?
Bizarro world for sure.
Right?
Yeah.
You take the family-friendly console and say, here's the most family-unfriendly game there is. We're gonna market it with Nintendo.
Yeah. I could just see the marketing now. One of the females dropping it like it's hot on top of a car as she's holding a Nintendo Switch in her hand.
But hey, this is how you create industry buzz, right? You do something so wackadoodle that everybody has to what just happened? And
that'd be funny.
So I don't know if Nintendo wants to do that or not. They certainly have the cash. They have the cash. They could certainly do it, right? And it would be a massive boost to say, we're back, baby. We can play all the games, right? So, it's up to them to if they want to take that bold step. I say do it. Why not? I like the competition. I love it. If Nintendo can bring the heat, why not? So if they can bring the heat, bring it and market freaking GTA and tell everybody in the world that you can play your games here too.
That's a move right there, bro. That is a move, man. Again, you should be hired for marketing because that's a genius. That's like a 4D chess move. Like
it is. It's a crazy move. They have the cash. They have a new console coming, and it's a console that supposedly can play all the AAA games. It's like, why not? Right? Just showcase to the world. You can come here to play everything. And hey, Xbox is gonna be putting their games to you. So you want to have some fun? You can play all the kid-friendly stuff, all the way to the most unfriendly. Go for it. We got it all. It's a potential move. I don't know that they would showcase it there if there is a big check to be written. only because the money guy is now running the company, and he might say, no thanks. And, and we already see money issues on the Xbox side, and you have to take it. Be fair, they just spent $70 billion buying one of the biggest games, Call of Duty. You already have it. Like, go market that first and see if that gets you somewhere.
That's a fair assessment.
It's what it is, right? Even though they could burn the cash, obviously it's just not like, hey, you bought that one, go make that into something, and then prove to me that it's worth it. Then we'll see if we want to do the next one, right? So I think they're gonna not do it. I don't think Xbox will go market that game. PlayStation, I think, already has the marketing rights for GTA. But I'm sure there's going to be a check that's going to be needed to do GTA 6. And again, I just don't know if they have that kind of cash right now. I think they're going to be conserving cash because they are in profit issues, right? It's just the way it is. And so Nintendo, on the other hand, they just keep printing money. It's like, okay,
they
fine.
literally keep printing money.
It's like, okay, sure, we can do that.
No, it's a great point. Everyone had great points, dude. Yeah, and it would be one of those industry. It would stop the industry in its tracks. Like, could you imagine?
Much like the ABK announcement, right?
Yeah.
It's like, what just happened? Nintendo is getting GTA marketing? What?
Yeah, that would be just bonkers. But look, again, folks, this was normally expected to be about 60 minutes. We went about half an hour over because obviously Hargeet joined us. So hopefully you enjoyed the conversation. This was an impromptu kind of a show. News broke. I'm retired, so I figured, F it. Let's get a little bit of a mini panel going. Hopefully you enjoyed the conversation enough to hit the like button. If you're finding the channel for the first time, I do ask that you consider subscribing. Mrs. Boom and I are on the hunt for 15K. As a matter of fact, yesterday we were notified by YouTube that the channel in 6.5 years has surpassed 5.5 million views. That is crazy for a channel that has 14.2 thousand subscribers. It's unbelievable. But that's thanks to you watching the show as much as you do, and us doing the shows 5 days a week. 5.5 million views, which is just bonkers. Let me catch up on the super chats and we'll get everyone out of here. Sir X-Men says this after dropping an additional $2 super chat. Hit my 20th year on Xbox Live anniversary yesterday. Happy anniversary, brother. 20 years is not too shabby. Sith Lord, he says this to Fuzzy Belvedere. Qualifying is only 7 hours away. Of course, he's talking about Daytona. That's going to be dope. That's their Super Bowl, folks. If you don't know what the Daytona 500 is, that is NASCAR's Super Bowl. It is a big deal.
Yes.
But we have Turbo Laz 1 drops a very generous $5 super chat, and he says, after the foo bar of Matrix, Phil fixed. Then it was P's. Then it was P's was more power. Yeah, of course, the 1080p versus 980p. I remember. Xbox fixed that. Then Xbox has no games. Xbox fixed that. Never good enough. Media wants Xbox gone. It sometimes seems like that for sure. It's very disappointing how it's so obvious. It's so blatant. It's just gross. Bold Alpha Wolfpack, welcome back, brother. He drops a very generous $2 super chat and says, not unless they have more third-party deals. I mean, they're probably going to double down on third-party deals for sure. There's no doubt about it. We have Pissed, and I always pronounce it as P1553D, but I now remember it because I'm an old man. I forget these things. He's like, it's Pissed. It's how pronounced. So Pissed. What's up, brother? He's been a channel member for 7 months. Thank you so much for the generosity. He says it makes sense why all of these port begging ponies are out here. PS got no games. Shout out to JD Gamer. Are coming out of the he said they're coming out of the woodwork. Sony has officially said it. I mean, they're in a pickle. I'm sorry. That's the best thing I can say about Sony right now. Michael Mooney, generous friend of the program, drops an outstanding £5 super chat and says, would it be better would it be a better move from the June show to August Gamescom show with more finished titles? They have to be everywhere. In my
Don't
opinion,
they do theirs like in September now or something? I mean, they're not locked to a June, right? They do theirs whenever they need to do it.
Yeah, it's I mean, I mean, they skipped Gamescom, Sony. I don't think they would go back there. Someone was saying in the chat, I think it was Sapo. No, I'm sorry, it was Michelle Alexandria. Sapo, shout out to her. She's here as always. Thank you so much for the support. Michelle Alexandra said there's no way that Sony would skip this proposed IGN show. I don't know if you saw it yesterday. Yeah, there's an IGN show that they're looking to. Ryan McCaffrey out there, preaching to the masses. It's gonna take a giant shit because I wouldn't go for free. Listen. I got no love for IGN. You know that. I don't hide it. They're garbage. They are. This is how you spell ignorant. IGN. You start with it. Their show is gonna be dedicated to hyping up the money man, which is Sony. It fills their coffers. 46% of their ad rev comes from Sony. We know who's paying the rent. So of course they're going to go out of their way to be the D-bags that they are and just, put up Sony with no games.
So here's the question though, Boom. Since Sony has no games,
right?
What the heck are they going to advertise?
Oh, probably the PlayStation 5
have games.
Yeah.
Xbox and Nintendo.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying the industry shift is happening. Who's going to butter their bread? Xbox and Nintendo. I'm just saying Sony ain't going to be at the table.
They may have
anymore.
to bend the knee. We will see. But Fuzzy Belvedere, brother, let's try and obviously one of the big goals, at least for Double Barrel Gaming, is to level up other people around us. That's what we do. That's what we bring on new names and new faces and new voices because we're all about growing the community, right? That's something that we really it's part of our DNA. And Fuzzy Belvedere is an amazing caster. He has an amazing YouTube channel. And we know we have a couple of goals, but the soft goal is to hit 500 subscribers. And he does great content, especially if you are someone that's into, like what you see on your screen, split screen racing games. He's one of the best in the business. Sell the brand, Fuzzy Belvedere. Where can people check out the one of the best places for anything and everything in the racing genre, and also find you on other shows dropping your incredible gaming knowledge on a weekly basis? And where could they follow you on social media?
Just want to thank you for having me on today, Boom. Always awesome being on the show with you, and always awesome being on the show with Hargeet. Love your guys' thoughts and takes on things and different perspectives on this industry as a whole. Thanks to everybody in the chat for interacting with us. Greatly appreciate you guys checking us out and hanging with us for this time. If you haven't already, hit the like button and subscribe button. If you haven't, do so now. For those that want to hear my rambles and rants on anything gaming related, just follow me on the app formerly known as Twitter at Fuzzy_Belvedere. And you can also find me on YouTube. Just do a search for Fuzzy Belvedere, all one word. You'll be able to find my channel. And look forward to hopefully seeing everybody in the chat right back here Friday morning, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for Breakfast with Boom. Look forward to seeing you guys there. Thanks again.
Thank you so much for being a part of today's impromptu show, and we'll definitely see you on Friday for sure. Hargeet Chani, sell the brand of Game On Daily, and there's a lot going on over there because not only does the Septic Sauce rule with an iron fist, obviously if talking about Gaz, but Asa has been super busy. Not only does he do Game On Daily, but he also does a new podcast, and he's teamed up with several of up and coming voices in the community. Sell the brand so people could kind of flock over to what Asa's doing as well.
Yeah, so check out GameOnDaily.com and YouTube.com/GameOnDaily, and Septic Sauce is Gaz's channel, and you'll find some fun there. Though he does a lot more stuff on Twitter these days, and depending on what tomorrow's news will be, we'll see how that goes. I think he's going to live stream it on the Septic Sauce channel, and then I'll be on with Fonz on Fonz Gaming's channel doing our GameStop Live, which we moved from Sunday because it was Super Bowl here to tomorrow. Sorry, to go after whatever they announced tomorrow from the Xbox side, so we can kind of talk about that.
Yeah, you're gonna get a big turnout for that.
And of course, I think they start at the same time. We have Asa with Deadly Headley and Gamsley. They do a 3 p.m. U.S. Eastern time, podcast every Thursday. So they'll be starting right as this fun news, the new podcast comes out with with all the news from Xbox. So check that out on Asa's channel, which is Gaming Arcadia. I believe that's what it's called. So check that out, and we'll be back next week, I assume, for Primetime Gaming.
Sure
so today is for those who don't know, it's Valentine's Day, so Boom will be hanging out, I'm sure, with Mrs. Boom, enjoying Valentine's Day tonight. So we will be back next week.
Yeah, so thank you. Well, appreciate you being a part of that show, and obviously you've been doing the great work in the community. Looking forward to that conversation with Fonz, because obviously you guys are going to cover it, so I'll be in the chat for sure to check out what you guys are talking about. And obviously it's going to be the way that you end the week. I mean, obviously tomorrow at 12 p.m. Eastern, I'm sitting down with, as always, with my co-host C Money of On Point for Gamers. That is X Vlog Live. That's about a 70-minute show. Again, it's a little bit of a smaller show, but we have I'm putting that show together. We're gonna have a lot to get into, especially with some of the news that came out today. I'm gonna read a bunch of articles, have a bunch of posts and quotes from some of our peers to see what people are talking about, and see how the gaming media is covering this, whether or not they need to be put on blast. And if they are, well, you can tune in to find out that I'm going to do it. And I'll do it with.
Are you going to do yours in the morning still, or are you going to do it after
No, what I'm gonna do is when you have these shows specifically like on a Thursday that come out late, I get out of the way of everybody, because obviously you're doing a show with Pong and PM, and the PM are doing a show. There's a bunch of people, so I just get out of the way, and we cover it Friday morning. So if on Friday morning you want to come in, you just let me know, and I'll drop you the link. And
yep, I might be available, but also I will be on C Money's on Friday at 6. He does his at 6 o'clock, I believe.
Right.
6 p.m. Eastern US. So I'll be on his on Friday as well. So
yeah, we're gonna like I said, I usually get out of the way of everybody on a late Thursday show, like what's happening with the business meeting or whatever the hell it's called.
Business event.
The business event. Yeah, we're gonna cover it on Breakfast at Boom, as we normally do. And that'll be at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. But listen, ladies and gentlemen, a big thank you to all of the unbelievable generosity that continues to come in the way of Super Chat. And, of course, the channel members and the channel membership that people continue to support us in order for, we do a lot of big giveaways. And unfortunately, I'm retired. The pension is great, but it has a limitation. And we do put money back into the show. Like, obviously, our equipment is top tier. Obviously, whenever we need our work done, that is done by actual artists. Sean Labrie being one of the big ones. He's one of the main artists of the channel. And then, of course, we do the big giveaways, and we have 4 big ones. We're giving away a total of over $3,500 this year. We're going to try and up it a little bit more, especially for the Christmas show. But we'll see. We gave away $1,500 in 2 hours this year. We're going to try and hit 2, but we have to see what the finances look like. If there's going to be a show that we give away that much money, it's going to be the Christmas show. That's the one we always do. It's the holiday show. We give away, big prizes for the community. It's our way of kind of, paying it forward, so to speak. But listen, thank you for tuning in. Again, if you didn't already subscribe, please consider subscribing. Hit the like button on your way out the door. And of course, I'm going to close out the show with something that's incredibly important to me, folks. Hopefully, one day it'll be important to you. And that's something that my dad taught us when we were kids. And he would say, Craig, treat others how you want to be treated. And also, it doesn't cost anything to be nice. You live by those rules, son. I can guarantee you're going to have an awesome day. So take care, everyone, and we'll see you, whenever there's more breaking news. But thanks so much, and obviously we'll see you tomorrow on X Vlog Live.